G'day and welcome to the Grow a Small Business Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Trewin. Each week, we speak with an owner who has grown a business with 5 to 30 team members to something bigger. Diving into their numbers and unearthing the pain they've experienced, we explore what they did to overcome each barrier and what they would do differently from day one. Let's get into it. Welcome everyone. Today I'm interviewing Pete and Renee Curran from Digital Surfer based in Gold Coast, Australia. Thanks for your time today, Pete and Renee.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Let's start with how we know each other. I had Matt and Liz Rard both on this podcast separately. Matt was coming up to almost a year ago now, December 2023, episode 453, about their e-business institute, which I know you guys have been through, and we'll talk about that in a minute, and had Liz on episode 457, which is January this year, 2024, talking about angel investors, because she's been heavily involved in Brisbane Angels. So both great people. I haven't met Liz yet, but I've had a couple of a beer with Matt a couple of times, both at Fallon's Brewery under Story Bridge there in Brisbane, great brewery. And also he popped down to the distillery opening that I chair the board of and have invested in the Gold Coast there, Six Tricks Distillery. So that's how we connected.
Yeah.
Tell our audience a bit about your business, what it does and how it makes money.
Our business is called Digital Surfer. I guess our three core services are websites, search engine optimization, and paid search. Paid search primarily across Google, however, also Facebook and LinkedIn, and soon to be launching into TikTok. Anything else we can add to that?
No, that's our core business.
Yeah.
And how did you start out? Oh, sorry, let me ask first, are there any particular industries or geographies that you target or work with?
I wouldn't say industries. There was once upon a time we had our plan that we would target certain industries, and some of those were in the health space, medical space, legal space, industries that we perceive to be probably higher income industries. And we're still in plenty of those, but something we've learned along the journey with some of those industries is people who have a lot of letters after their name try and actually tell you how to do marketing as well, because they're academically smart. So I found in some of those meetings, I would sit down and listen to them, because that's the best thing I can do at the beginning of any first meeting is just listen. And they would tell me the plan and then tell me why what they're currently doing wasn't working and what their plan to do is going to work. And I find myself at times sitting there thinking, okay, that's not how we're going to go about this. How am I going to softly tell you this? So we've found that sometimes the industries that we kind of had our idea in mind are not necessarily the ones. We've really gravitated to industries that the owners have a growth mindset, and we can see that they're on the up. They've got a certain number of staff. We kind of predict they're at certain numbers of turnover. I talk to them about their business journey, and I see a kind of lot of synergy between them and us. And we think, yeah, you know what, we're on the same page. We can work together. I guess in terms of the geography, it's not any real limitation for us. No, plenty of clients all around Australia, a few overseas at the moment. So the location's kind of irrelevant for us.
And I know we talked about this before we hit record, but SEO and paid ads. So paid ads, I'd heard that have gone up. The cost has gone up 30% in the last year. And also got your opinion on SEO, whether it's been impacted much by AI. So maybe do you want to comment on both those things?
Yeah, sure. So around SEO, we have not seen an impact on the clients that we're dealing with. We've always dealt with our strategies around quality, addressing what the actual problem is that our clients provide to their customers, and have always used Australian content writers. We have a content writer on our team now that does all of our writing, so can really understand our clients, our markets, our industries, our locations. So even just with the latest law update that has just finished yesterday, our clients are still not being impacted. So with AI coming into it, Google were against it at the start. Bing or Microsoft were not. So it allowed Google to then say, yep, you can use AI, but they've changed how they do things now as well. So they will crawl pages but won't index, because with the amount of content that's now come into the market through AI, they're just not indexing as much because it costs them more money. And it's through these core updates, they are just weaning out all of the AI content anyway. So it's, unless you are providing the content that is needed in the marketplace, they're not actually, it's not actually worth the time or investment of people putting it into AI. So the quality content, whether that be text, video, a number of different ways that you can do it, is what the search engines are really looking for now. In relation to paid ads, obviously the expenses with the search engines on having so much more content coming onto their platforms now obviously costs them a lot of money, and then having to improve all of their systems to get these quality pieces at the top of the page to ensure that they're actually delivering answers to their clients has been reflected in paid ads as well. So across all industries, for our clients, we've seen an increase in the cost per click. And that's, again, another difficult conversation to have with your clients, in that we're not doing anything differently. Market really hasn't changed, but now it's costing you 30% more. So we have to get really skilled and develop our strategies even more to get a higher return on investment for them to counteract that increase in cost per click.
Yeah, and that would make sense then, that SEO becomes even more important to invest in SEO if the paid ads are going up so much, and they're not going to go down, they're going to just keep going up. So that's something you've seen more interest in SEO?
Absolutely. And majority of our clients that we deal with have both strategies going, and we can adjust as needed. So as it takes a little longer for the SEO to kick off, we will use the paid ads to keep the leads or the sales coming into a business at the start. And by offering both services, we can adjust it as the business grows. So as their organic presence increases, we can decrease the cost per clicks, or the cost of that coming into their business. And once we really get their SEO ramping, the actual paid leads can be a lot more targeted, cost a lot less, but get a greater return on investment as well. So it's a win-win of consistently having the ability to change their strategy in the marketplace.
Yep. And I've just jumped into the marketing corner of one of my businesses, an online training business called the Distillers Institute. We launched that 4.5 years ago now, and over 600 students through our courses. But jumping back in the last year and starting to swat up a lot more in marketing, particularly online, digital marketing, something we've really focused on in the last few months has been CRO, or conversion rate optimization. I just saw a whole lot of low-hanging fruit, things we could change, which are really starting to work. Obviously, before we turn our paid ads back on, I thought that's a better use of our time. Is that something you guys also help your clients with, is conversion rate optimization, making sure the funnel and the websites and the flows, et cetera, are all working properly?
Yeah, absolutely. We look at the whole collective. We talk to them about like your email marketing, what actual channels you have in other fields of marketing, and helping them to really drill down as to what is bringing business into their bottom line. So tracking those, even though we may not be specifically working on that particular strategy, we will help them with ways that they can measure that and make it across their whole board, work out what is working for them, and also where there's opportunities that they're missing out on. And it comes into our website as well, like the usability, user experience, and things like that. So it's a whole collective, and we do have people that we work with. If there's services that they need that we don't offer, we collaborate with them to get them the best outcome.
Right. How did you start out?
Bit of a funny journey. So my background was in law, so after 15 years in the New South Wales Police, in 2011, when our eldest daughter was born, I decided I'd had enough, didn't want to play anymore. We were pretty fortunate, I suppose, that Renee had an executive level job at the Commonwealth Bank. So in August 2011, when Chelsea was born, I was going to say Renee went back to work. She didn't go back to work straight away, of course. But after a while, she went back to work, and I stayed at home and played dad. and it was the best year of my life. It was absolutely awesome. And I was just finishing off my law degree and I was about to practice, and a friend of mine who's a copywriter and has written a lot of novels said to me, I'm going along to meet this couple named Matt and Liz, who I believe will teach me how to build websites and promote myself online. Do you want to come? And that's how the journey started. I said to her, no, I'm going to this particular weekend. She said, great, I'll stay home with Chelsea. So on the Sunday night, I drove home from this event at Surfers Paradise, where I'd been to with Matt and Liz. And we met, and I said to Renee, I've got this new business idea, and this is what we're going to do. And I've never forgotten the day. At the time, Renee wore glasses like I am right now, and the eyes went down, looked at me and said, no, you're not, mate. You're practicing law. I think I was a subject or two away from finishing, maybe.
No, you finished.
I think I'd finished, and I was about to do the College of Law, and I was about to be admitted to practice, and I was going to be on the train from the Gold Coast to Brisbane every day, working for some firm. That was the plan. And then the plan got turned on its head. And so, yeah, I did actually go and finish the College of Law and be all qualified to practice. And I was just decided, I was fixated on this thing that I'd just discovered called digital marketing. So I started out on my own, just building websites, and got my mate who I went to this event with, he would write the content. And you know what? I wasn't that good at building websites. But I was okay at being out there talking to people, I suppose. And I guess, we were chatting about this earlier. One of the challenges we had earlier on is that we're on this bit of an income roller coaster. You could build some websites and make 30 grand one month and then only make 5 grand the next month. And I guess that was in part as well, because I guess all those years ago, that was 2012, probably weren't anywhere near as good at business back then as we are now. So, you just don't know what you don't know. And then over time, 2 more children came along, and Renee got more and more interested and came on board in terms of the SEO side of it, and said, you know what, I'm kind of becoming a bit fixated with this SEO, and to the point now where she's been on this 10-year SEO learning journey. And I'm a bit biased, of course, toward my own wife here, but she's an SEO guru. She'd be as knowledgeable as anyone out there on the subject. And, that probably brought a consistency of income to it, and Renee having such a strong management background that I guess by 15, when our third child was born, and then we went into 16, we probably got a bit more serious then. Started to hire some staff part-time, actually through Matt and Liz. We'd gone through and done some courses with them, and others that were doing courses with them that we knew were being taught in the way that we were taught and the way that we wanted them to be taught, to do things in that same model, the same way. That's how we started out with our first few part-time hires, didn't we?
Yeah. Yeah.
And we'll link through to the 2 episodes with Matt and Liz so people can hear those. But just briefly, the eBusiness Institute that they have is great. They teach 3 different models from memory. So you've got the agency model, which is what you guys do. You've got the portfolio model, which is buying niche passion content websites, renovating them, fixing the monetization, boosting traffic, and you can hold them or flip them. And the third one, is that the listing? What was the third option
the lead generation of
that one.
Business profiles.
Yeah. So you went along to that. It was 2012 you started the business, Pete?
Yeah, that was just myself with a friend of mine. That actually wasn't under the Digital Surfer banner either. That was a different name. We didn't try that hard either, I suppose. I guess I thought at the time we were, but in hindsight, we probably got a bit lazy. We had a bit of a chuckle about it earlier in prepping for today, saying that, it's probably fair to say that our arse wasn't in the fire financially, so my level of commitment was probably not where it needed to be. Renee was still going to work, and, we were okay. So, yeah, commitment certainly was nowhere near where it is at now.
And I've listened to all the podcasts that Matt's done at the eBusiness Institute, which I love. Great. And you guys have been on there, I think, a couple of times now. And Renee, from memory, because of your high corporate job, you were traveling a lot, and obviously young kids. So was that a factor for you to quit and join Pete?
It was the actual reason why I quit, other than that I started to learn on Matt and Liz's program as well, and was really enjoying it. Because my thing was I had been with the bank for 23 years by the time I had left, and I always said if I was going to leave, I was going to leave for something completely different. I wasn't going to go and work for another institution. So as Pete had expressed before, once we had our first child, I went straight back to full-time work, and he was an amazing stay-at-home dad. And I would travel, as I had a national role, I was traveling 3 weeks out of the 4 weeks out of every month. And I would leave on a Sunday and generally come back on a Friday, sometimes be away for 2 weeks, just depending on where I was going to. So I did that up until we had our second child, and I actually took mat leave that time and was getting more invested in what Matt and Liz were doing in their learnings. And that was when it actually hit me that our oldest daughter was 3 years old then and had nothing. I had nothing in common with her. We had no relationship because I just had a relationship with my job. And so that was a big eye-opener for me in that, yeah, I'd missed out on 3 years of her life. I don't regret it. It was like I loved doing what I did as a job. But now it was quickly coming apparent that I was missing out on another beautiful part of my life just doing what I knew worked previously for me. So then we had our second, and then some call it crazy, we had our third within another 13 months of our second. So our last two are very close together. So by the time I was due to go back to work, it was like, I don't want to do that anymore. So that's when I came in, had an absolute passion for SEO. And that was a portion of the business that can give us regular income, because Pete indicated websites is very up and down, especially at the start of a business. And because of my background, I had just been brought up on 20-something years of systems and processes. And bringing that into our business was what allowed us to start our journey of growing. If anyone has watched Matt and Liz's podcasts or been to any of their learnings, they'll talk about the exponential curve. And the exponential curve is absolutely a thing that happens. It's just not as smooth as what it's drawn. So our journey has a lot of ups and downs. Ours is a very, very rocky exponential curve. But looking at it from where we started to where we are now, it's definitely a big exponential curve with a lot of learnings along the way, but a lot of successes as well.
And what year did you jump into the business, Renee?
2016.
Yep, great. And so when the business started in 2012, how old were you guys?
So I was 36. They was 35.
Yep.
Great. And do you have any key numbers you can share to illustrate the growth of the business over the last 12 years?
Yeah, so we started off as obviously a startup business, so very minimal to no turnover. So at the moment we're at 1.3 million turnover and growing. So over that time, on average, we've had a 74% or more growth per year on year. So some are larger than that, some are a little bit smaller, but on average 74%. And our staff, we've gone from obviously Pete just by himself through to 9 full-time staff. And due to having three children, we are in the business quite a lot, but we don't work 5 full days either ourselves. Like that's where we're at this point in time. Previously, we would work, very long hours during the days. but now it's, one of us finishes at 2:30 every day due to the kids' commitments. So there's been, as I said, there's been a big journey to get to those figures and also those staff numbers.
Yeah, that's great. Congratulations. Really impressive.
Hey, can I just share with you quickly, Troy, a couple of big percentages that are really interesting, just to, I guess, illustrate and highlight what Renee said about the exponential graph that can be a bit rocky. You know, you talk about what have I got here? 2018 to 2019, 172% growth. And then 19 to 20, 51% growth. But then you can go 21 to 22, only 8% growth.
Yep.
So, you know, the journey hasn't been smooth. And there's a lot of lessons learned along the way. So, you know, it averages out at that 74% over that 8-year span, or 9 years, whatever it is, 16 to 25. But only in prepping for this, you know, we kind of reflected and said, wow, like it has been a roller coaster.
Do you think that 8% year, from memory, that was just not long after COVID had started, but that was it?
Yeah.
21 into 22. Yeah. Yeah.
So with most businesses, COVID had a real big effect. Pretty much overnight, we lost about 70% of our business, or I won't say overnight, but within the first month. And then for probably 6 months, there was just nothing happening in our industry. And then the market changed, and thank goodness we were probably in digital marketing, where everyone realised that we needed to be online. So by September of that year, we were turning over probably 3 times what we were prior to COVID. So the amount of lessons that we learned from COVID, even though it was one of the most stressful times in business, there were some absolutely huge learnings from us to take our business to the next level. So there was bad, but there was also some great things that actually came out of COVID.
When was the moment you felt like you had succeeded?
I think there's a few. You know, you can measure success, I guess, in some different ways. There's the obvious one. You kind of talk about the monetary side of things. But we haven't got this in our notes, but it's just come to mind. You know, a real success, it's almost 5 years ago to the day. So later this month on the 27th, when it's our daughter's birthday, she turned 5. She's about to turn 10. We were in Hong Kong. We went to Macau and Hong Kong for what, 2 to 3 weeks? I can't remember the exact, how many days it was. And so at that point, 5 years ago, we took ourselves out of the business for 3 weeks. We didn't communicate a whole lot with the team. And we came back and they shared with us a few ups and downs and things that happened while we're gone, but they said, we just fixed it all. It's okay. But you didn't need to know. And we kind of went, that's cool. So at that point, you'd probably say we hadn't hit some of the financial goals that we'd set, and we probably even haven't to date, because we have a bit of a habit of probably setting goals a little bit too high. But that was a marker where I think we went, wow, this is cool. 3 weeks out, no phone calls, no dramas. Everyone got paid. We got paid. We kind of went, that was a pretty big mark, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We probably didn't celebrate it enough, but
yeah. And another big mark is just recently where we've been able to purchase the premises that we're in now. So since we've started, we've moved 5 times. So that does have an impact on your business, but that was due to growth. Each time we'd move into something and then have to move into something else once we were growing. And now we're at a level of business that we were actually able to buy our own premises and set it up how we want. And there is a lot of room for growth as well as needed. But then even if we don't fill it out, it's not too big that we feel like we're sitting a mile away from each other. It's a very open environment, which is great for team building as well. So that is another key milestone there. And I guess another one is the biggest learning out of COVID was really identifying who our ideal client is and who's actually going to help our business in growth. So coming into COVID, we had a range of clients, and we just found that all of the smaller end of them were the ones that just all dropped off. Our middle clients were the ones that, you know, had the $2 to $5 million turnovers. They were the ones that stuck with us. And then we've also learned by having a few very large clients that they're very hard to deal with. So over that journey, we found our ideal area. It's not the only people that we deal with, but if we can keep majority of our clients in that like the larger end of the small business to the medium business, it helps us with our times, and we don't get affected so much with the economic like ups and downs either, because they're in for the long haul as well. They as Pete said, they've got that growth mentality. They're prepared to invest in their marketing. So yeah, we don't have as much ups and downs. So that's actually really helped us with our growth in our business as well.
Yeah, great. What does success look like to you?
You know how hard that is for us to answer, and let me, I guess, give everyone some background, some context. So before we even knew each other, we would both consider ourselves to be high achievers. There's no prize for second. That's our attitude. So that kind of compounded in somewhat a negative way when two people who were so driven and so focused on success and winning joined forces, and then you go into business and all of a sudden you don't win in the way that we've been used to winning. That hit us pretty hard. So to ask us what success looks like, one of the challenges we've had is we always set the bar so high it's not funny, to the point where one year we were working with a coach, we were 4 or 5 years ago now, who knows when it was, that probably doesn't matter, but the point being, we spoke about the year in reflection. Of course, at the end of fin year, we went through the results. We didn't look at any of those as achievements or success because we'd set some goals and didn't hit them. And Paul said to us, look, let's reverse engineer this. He said, you guys were never any chance of hitting the goals. He said they were not practically possible. He said, you've set the bar way beyond what your current team can achieve and way beyond what you can achieve just because of your commitments to children and other things. So we had to do a lot of work on how do we put it, like, to come back to your question, to what does success look like, to acknowledging the success we'd achieve, still set the bar ridiculously high because that's just our nature. But then acknowledging what we've achieved and saying, well, just because we didn't set these out, well, we set these outrageous goals, I should say, didn't achieve them, doesn't mean the year wasn't a success. Yeah. It was a great success, but we had just been so used to achieving enormous results pre-children that all of a sudden when that element got added to our lives, we probably underestimated the time and the energy. And
yeah. Success to us, which we're still working towards, is having a lifestyle that we are still working on the business, but not necessarily in the business every day. The business has been successful in that we don't miss anything that our kids do. So we're always at their schools, we're always at anything after school, and things like that. So to us, that is success. Success to us is having a profitable business that is not reliant on us. So we aren't quite at that goal yet. We are definitely heading in the right direction. But having that amazing team working for us, that allows us to work on it, not in it, to then make it an even more successful business. And success to us is actually having a saleable business that somebody is prepared to pay a lot of money for.
Yep. Well, especially with SEO, recurring revenue, predictable revenue, you're going to get a multiplier on that. Just back on the stretch goals, I've certainly been guilty of that. I think I'm getting better at it, but still need to work on it. I love that Leo Burnett quote. He's the big an advertising guru of some years ago. You know, if you reach for the stars, at least you won't end up with you may not get there, but at least you won't end up with a handful of mud. And yesterday, a guest that I recorded told me of a book I hadn't heard of, which I haven't read yet, called Gap and the Gain. Have you heard of that book or read it?
Heard of it? Yep. Yeah.
Yes. Because I'm terrible at celebrating successes, and I think I've got similar affliction to what you guys were describing before. But basically, if you set a goal at 100 and you get to 99.9 and you just focus on that 0.1% you didn't make, as opposed to turning around and going, holy shit, we just achieved 99.9% of this goal. It's massive. Yeah, I'm terrible at it and still need to work on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are. We constantly remind ourselves, but yeah, we don't create the time to celebrate like we should.
Perfect question for you both. Number one thing you'd recommend to marketing a fast-growing business?
We have different ones because we look after different parts of the business. But mine would be to get a business that actually has some systems and processes already in place. They may not be perfect, but you've actually got something to start with rather than creating something from nothing. That would be my biggest thing.
I'm all about sales and numbers and having a funnel that is just so big it's not funny. That's something I've learned. I guess that's kind of primarily my role. Renee's a general manager and oversights and controls everything, and I guess that sole front-facing person and prospecting and client-facing, or new client-facing, I should say, and just have a funnel that is so full that you almost can't keep up with it. That'd be my thing. Hiring sales teams, harder, faster, sooner. Get out there in front of people, and then worry about how to handle the workload.
How did you fund the business?
I guess that was one of our probable downfalls, in that we had a very strong financial backing before we came into it from our own previous employment, and just financial situation, that we probably didn't push as hard as what we needed to, only because we had money to fall back on all the time. So there was a learning in it when it got to a point where we were like using too much of our money. So fortunately enough, we had a very strong financial backing of ourselves before going into business. But we reflect on it now and saying that it was probably a negative to our business as
complacency.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Being under no financial pressure was not a good thing. Not a good thing at all. Yeah.
On the flip side, you don't want to be under financial pressure that you're stressing about it every day. But sometimes debt is good debt to make you accountable and keep you going. Whereas back in the early days, I was like, oh, yeah, it hasn't been a good month. We're all good.
Yeah.
Whereas if you've got loan repayments or commitments, it can keep you on track to growing. So our mindset has changed completely around that now, but it probably would have been better if we weren't in such a good financial situation to start with.
Yep. If you were to start up today with plenty of funding, would you go into your industry?
Oh, definitely.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Love it. Yeah, for sure. Can't really imagine being in anything else at the moment.
But I'd like to have had what we have now back at the start. That would have made a big difference. And that's why I made that comment on, even if it's not perfect systems and processes or even products of offering, you're not creating it from the start. You've actually got the foundation there that you can keep building on and tweaking. And even to this time, we are still looking at different ways to grow. As we said, going into TikTok, going into digital PR. So it's all about growing because we've got that very solid foundation and systems and processes now that we can actually just keep growing. And yeah, it's an absolutely challenging but fun industry to be in. We enjoy it.
Can you outline the most stressful point in your small business growth journey so our audience can learn from it?
We have discussed COVID, so I won't cover that one off again. The other stressful thing was actually last year. It was a very rewarding year in that we went through a whole rebrand of Digital Surfer, because we hadn't done anything since we started. So really defining who we were. We created a whole new sales process for our business, and we also purchased a commercial property. They all sound fantastic. Do not do them all in one 12 months.
Especially with 3 kids as well.
Especially with 3 kids.
Yes.
By the end of last year, we were burnt out. We just walked out of the business. And again, luckily, we had such amazing staff that we have with us that both of us were done. We just walked out, and I think in total took 3 weeks off, even though we hadn't planned on it. We just needed to. So all of those 3 things to achieve were great. But if I was to do it again, they would not be done at the same time. From 2 points, just the amount of work that's actually required from that, but then also the financial investment that you actually have to put into all of those 3 areas, took a big hit in both personally and financially.
Yep.
For the business. We're reaping it now, but yeah, it was probably undue stress that we put on ourselves.
What area in business do you feel you've had to work on the most at the greatest value?
From myself, it's the strategies that we build and the amount of services that we can provide to keep our clients solid with us. It's just like staff bringing on a customer. You put a lot of work into it. So if you can offer a broad range of products, and that's why we're always looking to expand, makes them stickier for your business, but then you can actually share all of the successes that you have with your clients as well. And that's one of the big things that we do, is just really get into what are the business's goals and achieving those goals, rather than just saying you're ranking on this page, or we've got this many cost per clicks, or we've built your website. It's about how is that actually helping your business. And I think that that's the biggest thing. And as we said, we give ourselves huge goals. We are great at celebrating successes with our business that we work with, but not our own.
Yep.
Yeah.
Does that say cobbler's kids don't have any shoes, or the worst shoes?
Yeah.
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 I'd say from my end to answer that very differently, because obviously here we have very distinct and defined roles here, which we might cover off in a moment. But I didn't come from any sales background whatsoever, or business development role. Like when you're in law enforcement and you're the police, the door swings off the hinges without trying. That's the only business in the world that doesn't need to market itself, and the door swings off the hinges 24/7. It's the perfect business model, there's no marketing required. So I kind of probably always had a little bit of an ability to talk to people, because I like to think I have personality. But I really didn't know how to sell. So learning that has been a bit of a steep curve. And I guess now I'm very comfortable to be at a point where I don't even use the word sales, and I kind of don't even like that. It's merely talking to people or educating people about what we do and how they can benefit. And if I can't explain that well enough that they don't see the value, then I've failed in, I don't even want to say in my pitch, because that's not even the word I'm looking for, just in my summary of Digital Surfer and what we can do to help them. If I haven't conveyed the value and the benefits to them just in a conversational manner, then I think I've failed in trying to explain what we can do. So, but yeah, that's been a 9-year plus journey and I certainly by any means haven't mastered that art, not at all.
What kind of resources, Pete, did you use to swat up on becoming better at sales?
Been to a few really good events, actually. Like if there's ever a sales event, I'm at it. Love it. We're actually fortunate. One of our clients is a sales training company called Swish. So I've been to a lot of their events. I also know another guy in Brisbane who has another business called Sales Masters International. So anything and everything that he puts on, I'm at. Anything that I see on LinkedIn, and there's always people reaching out. If it's sales related, I'll be there. Even if I don't know who they are, particularly if it's online, I'll say, I've got nothing to lose and a hell of a lot to gain. Sales, I think, is something that I don't know if I'll ever perfect, but I'm just immersing myself in it. Yeah. And actually enjoy it. Because I don't see it as sales. So it's just
after we had a beer in May this year at the distillery in the Gold Coast, I sent you a shit ton of books, didn't I, and resources?
Yep.
Yes.
Do you remember if one of them was the Jolt Effect?
Jolt Effect. It does ring a bell.
I'll dig out the email. If I didn't send it to you, I'll send it to you. But I think you might enjoy that. The guys who wrote the Challenger Sale book, I don't know, 12, 14 years ago, wrote The Jolt Effect, and the COVID pandemic gave a unique window into studying a certain part of the sales process, which is the why do prospects say no, and it's a no-go, like they're not going to do anything, and everyone thinks it's just sticking with the status quo. They dug into the data, and 44% of the time it is that reason. It's status quo. We're just going to keep doing things the way we are. We don't need to change anything. But 56% is due to FOMO, FOFU, fear of fucking up. A big decision that needs to be made. That person doesn't want to put their name to it, especially if it's a corporate and they've got a boss above them. Because if that project or that big spending decision doesn't work out, they don't get the ROI, they're on the hook. So what they did during COVID was, because obviously all sales calls went on to Zoom rather than in person, they got a heap of companies to agree to hand over their Zoom sales calls. So they put 2.5 million sales calls through machine learning to dive down to kind of get the answer to that question of, why do people say no and do nothing? So it's a really good book. I'll shoot that one through to you.
Yeah, no, that'd be great. Thank you.
What have you enjoyed the least about managing fast growth?
Not being able to deliver our high level of standard to every client. So, and trying to find quality resources. So one of our biggest successes is having an amazing team. So with growth, if you then hire someone just for the sake of hiring them because you need them with growth, it can actually have an adverse effect on your business as well. That would be my number one thing around growth is actually, managing the people.
Yep. And Pete, what do you enjoy least?
Yeah.
I think a lesson we learned in that time, which we didn't enjoy at all, because with relatively quick growth creates its own challenges. It's kind of not all beer and skittles. High turnover doesn't mean a proportionate increase in profitability.
Yep.
So they're hard lessons to learn. Turnover can spike significantly, but then it requires more resources, et cetera, et cetera. There's more to it. And what we learned a few times in the growth journey, when there was pretty big spikes pretty quickly, it wasn't always proportionate into what, as owners, would be the bottom line at the end of the quarter. There was never anything catastrophic, etc. But we certainly over time would look at P&Ls and say, oh, geez, that's not as good as we thought it would be. What went wrong there? Just probably realised we just probably didn't manage growth as well as we could have at the time, because there's just been periods over the last 5 years or so where there's been, like I said, there's been some significant spikes. We didn't know what we didn't know. Now when we kind of see those, and now we probably plan a lot better as well. So, we plan a lot better. We communicate a lot better. I'm talking to Renee a lot clearer about what's in the funnel, when it's going to drop in. So we kind of see these spikes about to happen, and we probably plan a lot better for it. Whereas, Renee's level of organisation is an 11 out of 10, and mine is not quite that good. We won't give me a score. We won't score that at all. We'll just say it was good.
What do you love most about growing a small business?
The challenge, always looking at ways that we can better ourselves. And one of the biggest things that we've taken out of growth is what we're doing now is not going to necessarily get us to where we need to be. So the customers that we've got now and the connections that we've got are not what's going to potentially take us to where we need to. So on our journey of growth, we have gone through different levels of customers, different connections, different networking groups, and different business coaches. So we've also learned to recognize when we're at our cap. So when do we actually need to jump ship and go on to something else? So with networking groups, for example, starting like with your BNIs and things like that, that's the start of the journey. Whereas with our clients now, Pete's actually in a group called Queensland Leaders, and they're the higher level businesses of who we want. And now Pete's an industry expert in that group. So it's about continually being prepared to change what you're actually doing as well. And that's where the excitement of growth comes in. And the business coach that we've got now is teaching us a whole different range of things than what our previous business coach did. But we couldn't have got to where we were today unless we'd gone through all of that journey of growth. So that's where the excitement comes in, and just really challenging ourselves all the time of things to do differently, better, but also whilst having fun doing it.
Have you got anything on that, Pete?
Yeah, you know what I love? I love it that as a small player in this market, we are winning some awards over some of our extremely bigger competitors. You know, they have 50-odd staff. They have offices in every state of the country. They are absolutely everywhere. Their marketing budget per month would be more than what ours is per year. Yet we go to certain award events that are significant in our industry. You know, they're not kind of made up bullshit awards. They're fair income awards. And earlier this year in January in Melbourne, we were at an award ceremony and we cleaned up over some of our bigger competitors. And I don't say that that's not to be a brag. That's not our style. If anything, what we enjoy most about that is the recognition that our guys get for their work. But it's just nice to know that as a small business with just under 10 staff, you can compete with the other agencies with 50 staff. That's not to bag them or anything either. There's nothing to be gained from that. I'm just saying that I like the fact that we've got to a stage where we're good at what we do, and we're competing with businesses, you know, 5 times the size of us, been around double the time we have. I love that sort of thing. Like we said earlier, we can't help but be a little bit competitive. We're planning for next year's awards.
Well done. Yeah. What has been the biggest mindset shift for you in your small business growth journey?
I guess that in part comes back to what we said earlier about the whole goal setting. There's a few things, but I guess part of it is that goal setting, in that we had in past set ridiculous goals, then wouldn't achieve them, then we'd berate ourselves, wouldn't acknowledge that what we did achieve was fantastic because we didn't achieve what we'd set out to achieve, albeit what we set out to achieve was probably couldn't be achieved in 2 years, let alone 1. So there's been a bit of probably a big mindset shift around that, and we've had to develop some patience and learn to probably have a plan over the next 5 years or more. And I guess given our family circumstances, we know that what we want to achieve is going to take a few more years than if it was, say, just us with no kids. That's been a massive shift for us because we're just, like, if anything, we know we're probably too driven. We, have to take our foot off the pedal. So we've had to develop some patience, and that's something that
not natural to you.
Yeah, as individuals, we don't have it. As a pair, we don't really have it, but we've had to.
Just got to work on it. It reminds me of one of my Bill Gates quote, which most people overestimate what they can do in 12 months and underestimate what they can do in 10 years. And I think it's just us as business owners, we're very optimistic until we get the shit beaten out of us a few times, and then we become a little bit more realistic. It sounds like you guys need a little bit longer.
From my perspective, it's probably around thinking that I have to get everything perfect before we go to market with anything.
Yeah.
That's probably my my biggest thing that I've learned, and a lot less worried about it now. So if it's not perfect, it's okay. Not perfect in my eyes might be 150% to somebody else. So why halt doing what you're doing just to make it perfect in your eyes? So yeah.
The number one habit you think a small business owner needs to develop and maintain?
Could we maybe, we'll answer this in part from the perspective of if that small business owner, if they're a husband and wife couple like ourselves, because that's kind of how we saw this at first. I guess separation of roles and making sure there's some pretty clear guidelines and I don't use the word, but almost rules. That's something that we've probably been pretty lucky, I guess, that over 9 years, there might be 2 occasions at absolute most where we've really, I guess, each dug our heels in and said, no, I'm right. And, then it just got to the point of silly. And I can't even remember, it was years ago, what we ever ended up doing. I don't even know, but, we've got so much better at saying, these are our very clear defined roles. And even all the guys on the team even know it. They know when they will need to talk to Renee about something that needs to be at a management level or something completely different that they talk to me about that might be new client related because we've just brought on a new client in the last week and, might not got enough information in the handover process or whatever. So those very clear defined roles. And I guess to take that one step further, knowing that, and this is a skill that's taken a long time to learn, is when we walk out the door at whatever time it is, we don't take it home. The guys in the team will come in some mornings and ask me something and say, did you talk to Renee about that last night? And they're still gobsmacked, but I say, no, I didn't.
Yep.
No, we did not talk about it. There might be something, if we need to get it off our chest, we might just in passing send a note via Slack or even message each other or even verbalise it and say, hey, tomorrow morning, first thing we need to talk about blah, blah, just so it's off the chest so that we know that this is a pressing issue, but it's not happening tonight at home. We're not talking about this at home. We're not talking about this in front of the kids. It's important, but we're not talking about it at home. So I think, from that husband and wife perspective, creating those pretty clear defined roles and not treading on each other's toes.
But I think that can work if you're in partnership with anybody, is that you've got to have those clearly defined roles and then own those roles. So one of it is accepting the decisions that are made. Like there's on occasions where I will go, I do not agree with what Pete is thinking, doing, whatever. But that's his side of the business. I'm going to support it and whatever comes from that journey. And I think that that's very important because then you're not undermining what they're thinking, unless it's going to be, you see an absolute catastrophic thing that's going to happen. I think that that's important, whether it's husband, wife, or just business owners. Before we decided to have those very defined roles, we were just always on top of each other trying to do the same thing but in a different way, and it just wasn't successful.
Want specific advice to help you get your business through its #1 growth challenge? Book a free 20-minute growth chat with me, Troy, the founder of Grow a Small Business. I'll recommend some resources which will help you grow your business with ease so you can live the lifestyle you've signed up for. Go to growasmallbusiness.com and click on Growth Chat. Can you talk how you've added people to the team, some wins, mistakes, and advice for those listening?
The biggest win is to hire slow and fire fast, and just really get to know who you're hiring. So we do personality profiling when we take staff on, and there's a number of reasons why we do that. It's so that we can work out how to get the best out of them, so that we can understand who's within our whole team and what makes them tick, and then get the whole team to understand what everybody else is as well, so that then everybody's understanding that everybody does work differently. So something that you may take offence to or might not understand why another staff member does what they do, that then just allows everybody to be a lot closer. We do regular trainings. I give the staff a lot of authority as well. And our biggest motto is that if we make a mistake, it's totally okay. We just need to own it and learn from it. So if we make a mistake, we're on to our clients. If it's a client affected one, explaining it to it, and 99.9% of the times the clients are fine with it, but it's what you learn from it and how you're going to fix it. So it's very an environment that's very open as well, and everybody can speak their mind. We have flexibility as well. Another learning is work remotely and in office, and you've really got to find what is that best balance. And some staff want to work in an office Monday to Friday. Some staff want to work remotely some of the time. We do find within our industry it is very important to collaborate, because our campaigns are so interlinked for a client that the strategy discussions work so much better if you're face to face. But then also being very open to what their ideas are. So the staff were wanting 4.5-day weeks, and we've implemented that. So it's about making your team part of your team and not just saying you are my team. And then that's when we go on holidays, they're all happy to step up and do what they're doing. And we make sure that when they walk out the door and when they're on holidays, it's also, you're not digital surfer. You are yourself. Go and do what you need to do. So it's about building that really big, strong team, and coming from both the backgrounds that we do, we know what it's like to be dealt with as though you're a number.
Yep.
And I guess that they gain the benefits from that, and they get a lot of autonomy, and that allows them to take some accountability as well, and allows them to grow, which is a great thing.
What personality tests do you use? DISC, Myers-Briggs, Enneagrams?
It's like a DISC, but it's a different version of it. But it's in the line with that. It's just north, south, east, and west. But north is D.
D. Yep.
So when people ask, it's a lot like DISC.
Yeah, I blogged about this. I might have mentioned this to Pete over a beer, but when I first came across DISC, I remember doing Myers-Briggs at uni and even DISC, but it was my only night class, all behaviour, and I kept falling asleep. So when I was moving to London to buy into a small IT support company, I asked our young general manager we'd appointed in our web company in Melbourne for feedback before I jump into my next company. What can I do better, differently? He said, well, you can manage people better. You burn people out, you push people too hard, you can never celebrate. I said, all right, you're fired. He's still there. He's a great guy. And so I Googled how to become a better manager, came across his awesome podcast, and I was going through it. They just started a year earlier. This is back 2005. So this is 2006. And I had a lot of gym time on the treadmill, had to wait 3 or 4 months for my wife at the time to finish her job before we moved. So going through the back catalogue, and when I came across the DISC material, I've written about this. When I heard my quadrant, and then the next one, I, which is more salespeople, extrovert, orientated. I'm task orientated, extrovert. When I heard my quadrant and this other quadrant, the high I, I stopped running on the treadmill and nearly fell off, because it just clicked and made sense. One of my business partners, why they really shit me so much, because they're that kind of salesy. In my mind, they're all talking and no worky, but then realizing, no, actually, it's just a communication difference, a behavioral difference. We're all wired differently. And God help any company that's just got all high Ds like me in it. So you need that diversity.
Yeah.
Yep. And that was a big thing. We thought that we needed a certain personality for a role. And we learned from that you need certain parts of it, but if you have them all the same as well, it actually is a bad thing. So we've learned from that, and very open as to who we have on our team, but it's more around understanding who they are and to get the best out of them and how everybody can work together.
What are some of the things you recommend to building a sustainable and kick-ass culture to help with the growth?
Team building activities outside of, like, we always do it on work time, but we go out and do like escape rooms, or just socializing, making sure that we're involving partners as well. So it's not just all work. celebrating anniversaries, birthdays, anything to do with food in our office is a good thing. But really finding out what ticks with them and adapting to what we do to align with that. Our biggest thing and our I guess most success is actually when we go out and do team building activities. Because it's fun, everyone has a bit of laughter, but you gain so much more out of it, and everyone gets to understand more about people personally outside of work. And it's not even like you just don't talk about work. But yeah, the escape room was probably our most successful and fun thing that we have done, and everyone wants to go back and do them again.
One other thing as well is once a month on a Friday we have a training day. Someone will, so someone from the SEO team might get up and do an hour talk to coach everyone through some things that, guys in paid search or web dev team might not know so much about. And then I'll cook lunch and, we'll just all sit in the boardroom behind us and have lunch and beers and chat. And again, it's very, there wouldn't be any really work talk comes up. And last, was it 2 Fridays ago? We cooked pizzas. We bought all the ingredients and everyone had to make their own pizza, and it was a bit of a pizza challenge, and everyone got to share and comment on others' pizza and that sort of thing. So it was just fun. Even a simple thing like we have a footy tipping competition for the NRL and the AFL, and a couple of the guys are not into one or the other or either, but because there's the lure of the $300 voucher at Rick Shaw's for the winner at the end provided by me, everyone's all of a sudden got interested in the AFL and the NRL. And every Monday morning, Renee will just collate the scores and talk about who the leader is. So that's something that goes from March through to late September. And guys who are not necessarily, as I said, into AFL or NRL just love it. It's just the banter of, particularly when one of the girls beats me on any given Monday morning, and I've had with my tips, they're all into me.
Yep.
They think you're the guru and you've got the lowest score on the weekend. It just creates a lot of fun in the Monday morning meeting. So
the Monday morning meetings are important as well, because we always cover off one thing that they did that was exciting on their weekend, but then also what was their biggest win and what was their biggest learn from the week that's gone. So you get a lot out of that as well.
Yep. Tell the audience how you've handled balance.
I don't like it. Yeah, and I could handle it that well.
I guess with balance is, I think the balance is that our kids force us not to be here all the time. As I said, Fridays are half days for us anyway, but each day of the week, due to their social life and their sporting commitments, one of us is out of here each afternoon. And I think that just allows us to have that balance, even though we're running around, we're not in the office. And because we've built the team up, we don't work weekends either. We don't. So weekends are for our family, and we really try and do Saturdays for sports or whatever, and Sunday is just full on family day, going to the beach or whatever. So that is where we get our balance. Is our life not hectic? No, it's full out. It's never stops. But I think our kids and our own discipline on weekends as well has allowed us to have that balance.
Sounds like much better balance than when you're at the bank, though, Renee.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Like people would go, yes, you get paid a lot of money, and I did. I got paid very well. But when you calculate your hours from working 5 a.m. till 9 p.m. And traveling all the time, the hourly rate's not actually that good.
Probably paid more working as a manager at Macca's.
Yeah, probably. And it didn't interrupt my life as much as what I thought it did until you were out of that environment.
Yep.
I think something we could add in there is that whilst we joke that we maybe don't have the balance, we probably have a better balance than what we give ourselves credit for. But something we've learned over time is I think a lot of people in business think, I've got to work harder, I've got to work more hours, I've got to work longer. And and their mindset is, once I've made it financially, then I'll start to train, look after myself, read books, sleep more, eat better, etc., etc. I think the balance that we've now got a lot better is that we'll put ourselves first, and we realise that by taking some time out and by walking daily, meditation, yoga, music, whatever your thing is, getting surfing, whatever it is, getting out and doing that on a daily basis means that you can come in here and you could put in 6, 7 hours, 8 hours, whatever it is. You're going to give so much more and be in such a better space. So I think in terms of balance, that's something we've got a lot better at. But I know at the beginning we certainly didn't have that. You know, we had that old school mentality and belief we've got to work more, got to work harder. We now look back and kind of cringe and say that was actually a stupid old school thinking. That was kind of our parents' and grandparents' generation thinking. But again, you live and learn as time goes on. So you're looking after yourself a bit better, and then you're better for it when you do get here.
How much professional development have you invested in yourself?
Heaps. Yeah.
So much.
Heaps. Yeah. I mean, to put a price, and we were spending in the vicinity of $300,000-400,000 on personal development on ourselves in the last few years. Heaps of courses, heaps of trading, and probably don't even look at it as a spend. It's an investment.
Yep.
Some of the lessons we've learned from some of the, training we've invested in for ourselves, you can't put a price on that. You look at some coaching we've had and some various things we've done. We look back now and say that was a bargain. What we got for what we paid and what we got out of that. We think, wow.
But we're still doing it now.
Yeah.
So it's not something that we just did off from the start. It's just something that we've continuously done through our whole business journey. Sometimes we do a lot more than at other times. And sometimes it'll be both of us doing it or one of us doing it. But it's just always working on ourselves, whether that's just, walking every morning, to, like as Pete said, meditation or professional coaching, both personally and from a business perspective.
Yeah. Have you had mentors along the way or just coaches?
We've had a few mentors. Definitely had mentors. But yeah, I guess a combination of both is what's really, really helped us. And then we mentor quite a few people now as well ourselves to help them build up. But being a mentor yourself is also a very strong thing to do through your business and your business growth, because it brings you back to, I'm actually doing some great things as well.
Do you have a board of directors or advisors?
No, not such. No, not at that stage yet.
All right, Pete and Renee, we're on to our final 5 questions. What do you think is the hardest thing in growing a small business?
I'd have to say that kind of cash flow profitability side of things, understanding the numbers, understanding that point of break even. I think the earlier you can get your head around those concepts, the better you'll be. Don't worry about some of the pretties. Learn numbers. Yeah.
Absolutely. And then finding out quickly what's working, what's not working, and what's not profitable. Even though they're bringing in income for you, if it's not profitable for your business, get rid of it and find the ones that are actually profitable.
Yep. Favorite business book which has helped you the most?
Mine's not completely business. It's probably not a whole lot business related, but given you said it's okay for me to swear, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck.
Yep.
I think it's Mark. Well, I can't think of his surname. Maybe Manson could be his surname, I think. I think that's a great book. Another business book, the 4-Hour Workweek's okay. I didn't mind that.
I was just going to say my book, from a business perspective, is Profit First.
Yep.
Because
which?
Yep. Yeah, because if you don't have that mentality, then we've fallen into those traps sometimes where you're actually putting everyone else before you, but you've got to flip that back to having profit first.
Any great podcasts or online learning tools you use for your own professional development?
I just like to listen to any sort of podcast. I'll just throw one on. Like sometimes I'll listen to Matt and Liz. I'll start to listen to a few of yours, but anything to do with management, but then also just self-development in how being the best version of you can help you in every part of your life. So I don't have one specific. I'm always depends on how I feel as to where I sort of go to. But yeah, definitely around the industry as well. So SEO, specific paid ads, digital marketing, but business growth, listening to how other businesses have been successful and their journeys. And yeah, just then self-development ones, and then even just funny podcasts, just something completely out there to throw a bit of fun into what you're doing.
Yep. Pete, do you have any?
Wouldn't say specifically. No, look, anything that's business related,
Yep.
yeah, and sales related, that sort of thing is what I gravitate to.
One tool you'd recommend to help grow a small business?
I would say, again, it comes down to the numbers, is Xero. But having someone that can, if you don't understand what those figures are, then you've got to have someone that teaches you. But it's an amazing tool that you can quickly get your numbers from a high level, or you can go in depth with them. So once I would say Xero, because if you don't have the numbers, your business doesn't go anywhere.
I would say any decent CRM that allows you to manage what's in the funnel. I guess that's probably more so related to my role than Renee.
Which one do you use, Pete?
I've actually just started a new one called Go High Level, but he's also looking at, what was the one called you were talking about recently?
I was just looking at
Zoho, yeah, where a few of the guys are looking at some other options, but, that might suit their roles better. But at the moment, I'm liking Go High Level. It was built by marketing agencies. Have a lot of functionality though, and things that we kind of don't need at the moment. So that's one of the challenges with CRMs. Yeah, they all offer enormous functionality, and we don't need a whole lot of it now. And there's a lot of things that I don't know if we will need. I don't know if we want to go in that direction. So, yeah, I mean, I won't get bogged down in talking CRMs, but yeah, just a CRM that helps you manage that funnel. Simple things like it just sends you automated reminders to say, it's the second day, it's the third day, so-and-so's opened up your email, now it's time to call them again. Just things like that to manage the funnel. A lot of them, their cost is very reasonable as well. They're $80, $100 a month or something. They're worth their weight in gold. And probably just one that probably also has a quoting system in it, and have a lot of quotes already pre-prepared and ready to go out, so that you don't take too long to get back to people. Kind of get back to them while they're hot.
Finally, my favourite question, what would you tell yourself on day one of starting out 12 years ago? And for Renee, that's 8 years ago for you.
Yeah.
Speed to market. Yeah. We joke a lot at our end about Renee's perfectionistic traits. And to her credit, she's kind of come full circle and realised, well, we can sit back trying to get something to a point where we think it's perfect, and then the market can very quickly tell us it's not perfect. And we've spent a fairly extensive period of time getting something to a point that we think is right for market, and then the market tells us otherwise. So speed to market, I think that, because a real good example of that, there's only, 3 of us out of 10 who are over 40, and there's 4 who are under 30. And we talk to them about certain things now, and we'll say, we've been thinking about doing this. What do you think about this? And this can be at 9 a.m. and by lunchtime, one of them comes back to Renee and says, yeah, I've already done that. I'm like, oh, how'd you do that? And I'm like, no, actually, I don't even want to know how you did it, but okay, that's great. So yeah, just when there's, in this whole world that we live in is so fast paced, and the digital marketing space moves so fast, there's a real godsend. Yeah, some of these young people that we employ in that I guess you don't have to be under 30. I'm pulling out a number there, but yeah, speed to market, just the speed at which they get things done in the digital space.
Yep.
Faster.
And Renee, what would you tell yourself 8 years ago when you joined the business?
Speed recovery. The speed is a very big one there. We have perfected speed recovery now, but back then it would have been great. So if something doesn't go right, it's how quickly we pick ourselves back up. So, for example, we've had some instances where we've hired someone 2 days before they were due to start. They said, "Oh, I'm not starting now." So it's just like how quickly you can pick yourself up. And just even like if a customer leaves, it's just like, okay, they've left. What learnings can we get out of it? Let's move on and keep going. Where else are we going to find someone else from now? So it's about how quickly you overcome something that hasn't gone in the right way, but taking a learning from it, building on it, and just moving on. Because something that we would hold and grudge for months and months, we might hold and grudge for 2 minutes now.
Yep.
You're allowed to have your little spat about it, but we're so quick at just moving on because it doesn't help anything, because nothing at the end of the day is going to change from that situation. So it's just a matter of moving on quickly. And I think that was probably what held our business up as well a lot, is harping on things that we couldn't change.
Yep. Well, thank you both so much for your time today. Obviously, we could keep talking for another hour and a half, but we'll have to leave that for another drink at the Six Tricks Distillery next time I'm up there. Congratulations on the growth over the 12 years. Pete, coming from obviously a law enforcement background, and Renee, yourself very senior at Australia's biggest bank and a lot of travel, 3 weeks out of the 4 in a month. And yeah, up to a team of 9 now, 1.3 million top line, doing great things and getting that balance in check and lowering some of those audacious goals that you've got. So thank you very much.
Great.
No, thank you, Troy. It's our pleasure.
Thanks.
That's it. Thanks for listening. Please leave a review in iTunes or whatever platform you listen to us on. It means more small business owners will find our cast and help people with their business growth journey.